Looking for a fantastic macrame pattern for a curtain or a wall hanging? Watch today's video. I show you everything you need to know on how to make this. Our daughter Bailey, who by chance is the brains and the talent behind the DIY editing of our videos, lives in a guest house on our property, and she came to me and said, man, I'd really like to have a curtain to go over my closet. And I said, challenge accepted. So today I am going to show you how to macrame a curtain. This curtain that I'm making is ending up 8 foot tall, and it is going to be 48 inches wide. So for your calculations, you can make it as wide or as long as you need, but for today, every section, which is about 12 inches, every 12-inch section will need about 576 feet of macrame cord. The macrame cord that I use, I get from Amazon. It's a 3mm cord. Love it. The link for that is down below. But I'm going to show you how you can make this curtain to fit your space. So let's get started. I have my macrame stand set up, and this is a stand that I had Ross make me. And we have a video on that, on how to build this down below. But when you're cutting your cord, if you can set it up on something that spins, because you're going to be using a lot of this. So again, to recap, my curtain is going to be 8 foot tall. For every 12 inches wide, you need 24 cords, 24 foot long. Before I get started on the curtain, I need to show you how to do a square knot in case you're not familiar. And so I just have some short scraps put on here. A square knot is done in 3 sections, typically with 4 different cords, but you divide them out in 3 sections. So left, center, and right. And on the project that we're going to be doing on the curtain, there's many times that you're going to be having multiple cords. So this will be one section, this will be one section, and this will be the center. So for this project especially, it doesn't always mean just a single cord, but it does mean 3 sections, 1, 2, and 3. So divide it out. For this one, we're going to put 2 cords in the center. We're going to take our left over the right. We're going to take our right over that one, and our right goes behind everything and comes up in that first half circle. So that you went left on that one. To know which cord is next, this cord here comes out the back of the knot, and that means that is the next side that goes. So if you get distracted, when the cord comes out the back, that's the next. You can see this comes out the front. So we're going to do the same motion, right over the center, left over that, and then the left goes behind everything and in that half circle. There's going to be many times throughout this project that you're going to do an alternating square knot, meaning you're going to take 2 from this one and 2 from this one and do the same motion. We're going to do a square knot. To continue the pattern, we would take 2 from this one, 2 from this one, and do a square knot. And that's how you'll do rows. So that's just the basic on how you do the square knot. This is everything you need to know to do this really cool curtain. So I have been working and designing and tearing apart and working. I tease that I do 10 stitches forward, 45 stitches backwards, and rip those out till I came up with what I liked. As I said, everything on here is square knot. These are the square knots that I just showed you with just using single strands. These are square knots when you're going to be bulking 8 of them together. And this is a square knot when you're using 16 cords. So to get started, to get the big picture, it is done in sections of 3 of these loops. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I have done 3 sections. I'm going to add the 4th one on so you can see how this chevron continues between each of the sections. So it's turning out super cool. So each of these loops are 8 24-foot cords. And like I said, this curtain is going to be roughly 8 foot long, 7-8 foot long, and it when stretched out, this makes about 12 inches. So you need 8 cords, 8 cords, 8 cords. Cut the length for your project, which in this case is 24 feet. And so I have 8 cords here. This is roughly the center of that, and I've just tied a loose slip knot there. Slip or lay the cords over your rod, and we are going to do 9 of these square knots using all of the cords. So lay them out flat and divide them in 2 cords, 4 cords, 2 cords. So we still have our 3 sections. So you're doing the same motion. It's just with longer cords to pull through. And we don't need to pull up to that knot. This is a good starting point. So that was left over. Here is right over. And we do this for a total of 9 of these square knots. So at this point, you can undo your temporary knot there. And we are going to meet up the bottom 2, and we're going to do 1 big square knot with all of them. So again, we're dividing it into 3 sections. So we're going to take our 2 from this side, our 2 from this side, and then the remaining ones stay in the middle, and you're going to do 1 big square knot. Okay, so that's left. Now you do your right. Okay, and the top one should pull right up to the base of your others and pull that one tight. So we're going to do this for the next 2 sections. So we're going to do 3 of those total, and then we will connect it with this, but I'll also show you what it is to start out fresh. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop down 2 inches and do 3 rows of alternating square knots. So just when you start out, and then I'm explaining this now so you can see what it's like to join in your next section. You're going to skip the first 2 cords. We're going to do our first square knot with the next 4. So that will allow you to join in. It'll leave 2 spare ones on this side so that we can join in the other ones. So if you're starting out, skip the first 2 and then do the square knot. But I'm going to show you what it looks like when we're joining them. So here is the remaining 2. Like I had said, there's 2 that are left at the beginning. That means there's 2 left at the end. And so at this point, if you can get a piece of cardboard and cut it 2 inches tall, it only have to be at least a dozen inches or so long, but just cut a piece of cardboard, and we will use that as our spacer. So to start with, you're going to take these 2 cords and 2 cords from your first loop, and you're going to do the first step of your square knot, and then just let that one hang. Take your next 4 cords and do your first step and let that hang. And do that all the way across till you can finish out your 3 loops. So there's 4. And we're going to take the 2 cords from this loop and the first 2 cords of this loop and do the same thing. Okay, when you get to the end, you're going to be left with 2 cords. Just let those hang. Now take your cardboard and slip it in between each of your knots. I'm just going to take the 2 center cords from each of the knots. Okay, now that you have your cardboard in place, kind of gap out your loops a little bit and just draw up each end to where the cardboard bottom is, or the cardboard top is going to the bottom of the knot. And we're going to do that over here as well, just to get your cardboard straight. Now you can complete the second part of each of these square knots. And by having the cardboard in there, your line is nice and straight. I had said earlier that I have done a ton of tearing out on this project, And this is the reason. So if you can just remember this, you cannot work side to side on this process. Because we're doing angles of the chevron, you need to work in an angle down, and then we would be able to, it's kind of a combination, go down and over and down and over. But so our next step, now that we have the top 3 rows of alternating square knots, we're going to do our first chevron, which is the point, the tip of that is underneath this strap. So find the center cords. This is the center square knot directly below. And this time we're going to use a 3-inch piece of cardboard. So do your first step of the square knot, slip in your cardboard and pull it up and finish the knot. Now, so taking this one as an example, we are going to do 1 and then it goes to 2 and then it goes to 3. So you're going to do the same alternating square knot, but on the point, it is important to go side to each. So we're taking the right 2 cords and the cords from the next knot, and we're going to do 1 square knot and just pull it up to the base of that first one. Now pop to this other side. We're going to take the other 2 cords from your first knot and we're going to do this side. So I have found that on each of these, it is best to do that rhythm until you have 3 knots in the center here, because it's 3 wide. So we're going to go back and we're going to do the 3 in the center, or the knot in the center. So now we have 2, a row of 1, a row of 2, and so then we're going to do a row of 3. So you take the 2 from above it and your next 2 cords and just continue your alternating square knots. So now we have the 3 on that row. So take the 2 from the center one and the 2 from this one and create your next row. Okay, we almost are complete with the dimension. So here's the first one we've done. Here's the second one. Now we're going to do our 3rd square knot, and that is the end of this process, the end of how far we go down. Now we're going to then after that start the angle. So this is what you have going. You're going to have your row of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here I took a picture so you could see 2 strings from the row up above and the next 2 strings to make the row down below. And you continue until you have 6 rows, and then we will start making the V shape. Now this chevron is going to come down and meet up with this chevron. And this is where you need to keep everything symmetrical. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the top row down to this point and the top row to this point. And then you may have to adjust because you want these to be straight across from each other. So I have, working on the rest of the project, I have got to where this one came in high, where this one was low, and so I've had to adjust it. On each side of the tip, there are 11 square knots. So that's your tip. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And the same over here is 11. So these 2 should equal out to be about the same distance. This one might be just 1/8 of an inch long or down further, so I'm just going to scoot up that square knot. So we have 11 on each side, and they need to meet up even with each other. Now we are able to continue our pattern going 3 rows on this, 3 rows on this, and continue my pattern down here. So at this point, we need to attach these 2. And now we can do the next one here. When you get down to the tip, just join them together, and we're going to go down and we're going to continue this process 3, 3, and 3. So this is what it looks like when you get down to the point. I end with 2 square knots. You can put 1 square knot. You can go down to just a point, but I just chose that because that's how I started it, and I wanted to stay consistent throughout. But at this point, we want to measure from your top dowel rod, and this is about 17 3/8 to the tip of that. Compare it to this tip. This tip is closer to 18. So at this point, I am going to loosen up the last couple rows of knots just on the outside loops, the outside edges. So there, I gained a little bit, so we can make up the next part on the next stage, but it's important to keep everything even. The next part is to make a group of 3 square knots, but you're using 16 strings. You're using 8 sets of 2 cords to do that. And so to find the 8 that you're going to use, go to your center and count off each direction 4 sets of 2. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on this side, we're going to do the same. So there you have 8 sets of 2, so a total of 16 cords. Separate them out with 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, and then 8 in the middle. So here again we have our 3 sections, but 4, 8, and 4, and do 1 square knot. And I'm going to go ahead and do the second part of the square knot so that when we tighten it up, it's in place, but just do it nice and loose. And we are doing 5 inches from the top here to the top of this knot. But since I am matching everything across, I am going to, instead of doing exactly 5 inches, which is about where I stopped it, I am going to double check the knots across and make sure that my measurement is okay. So go ahead and do 2 more of those. Okay, when you're done with those 3, again, measure. So we're about 21 1/8, and I want to measure to the bottom of the other one beside it, and we're right at 21 1/8, so we're really good. Okay, the next step is just a repeat of what we've done here. We're going to go down, and we're going to go down at 5 inches again and put 1 square knot. So you're going to have to find the middle 4 cords. So here's 2 and here's 2. So of these 4 cords, we're going to go down 5 inches and do a square knot. I'm going to leave it loose so that I can adjust it. And as you can guess, I am going to measure to make sure that it matches up with the other one. But if you're just starting out, we're going to mirror this top part and we're going to go 5 inches again. So I have that lined up, and that's a tip that the chevron is going to go in this direction and will meet up with the chevron here. So that's why we want to make sure that this is even, because when they meet here, we might have to adjust it like we did previously. So I am going to just continue this pattern. You do your chevron, you bring it down 5 inches and do your big bulky square knots, go down 5 inches, do your chevron, always working from the tip down to each side. So you just continue that pattern for as long as you want your curtain. Maybe you're only going to do 2 rows or 2 sequences of this, and then you're going to call it good. This one is going to end up with 4 chevrons, and I'll show you at the end how I'm going to finish that. After you finish your last row of the chevron, you need to decide how you want to finish it off. I have chose to do random lengths of cording, and I just put a simple knot in the bottom of each one. My total length, I cut it to be 86 inches on the longest pieces, but then just varied it from there. I do want to say the center knot did create that a couple cords in the center pieces to be very short. So I did have to splice 3 different times. I had to add in cording because by doing this long of a project, by the time I got down to the bottom, it was really short. So in analyzing it, I would do that again. I wouldn't cut all of them 2 foot longer because then you're wasting a bunch of cording. Splicing it in wasn't a big deal. And even standing back and looking at this, I can't tell where my splices are. So I have my project done. Here it is hanging on the closet for our daughter. I am in love with this. If you have any questions while you're doing your project, comment down below. But I can't thank you enough for watching DIY on the House.